The bond. The morning of the council meeting dawned with unusual celestial activity. All three moons aligned perfectly, casting triple shadows across the crystal city. The ancient defense systems throughout the planet pulsed with energy, long dormant, sectors coming fully online. Across the Sylvani homeworld, citizens reported strange phenomena, crystal structures resonating with musical tones, plants blooming out of season, wildlife behaving in unexpected ways. In her chambers, Queen Lyra prepared for the most significant council session of her 300-year reign. Her traditional ceremonial robes felt suddenly restrictive, too formal for what lay ahead. She chose instead a simpler garment, still regal, but less imposing. Vex watched her, with knowing eyes, his scales shifting through colors that reflected her complex emotions. "Are you certain of this path?" the queen asked her dragon companion. Vex rumbled softly. His thoughts touched hers through their bond. Certainty was rare in any significant matter, but the dragon projected confidence. The human captain had proven herself in ways no Sylvani ever had. She questioned, she challenged, she inspired. She stood unbowed yet respectful. She saw the person behind the crown. Meanwhile, in her guest quarters, Olivia prepared for the council meeting with help from her crew. They had been provided with formal garments in the Sylvani style, modified for human proportions. "This is unprecedented," Kate said, helping Olivia with the unfamiliar fastenings. A human forming an alliance with an alien queen. Laura nodded excitedly. "Think of the diplomatic implications, the cultural exchange opportunities, the scientific advancements." Diane, however, seemed concerned. "Captain," she said carefully, "the council seems to expect something more than a political alliance. Their references to prophecy, to bloodlines, they speak as if—" "I know," Olivia acknowledged. "The implications are clear. They believe I'm destined to stand beside the queen, not just as an ally but as a mate." Laura finished, eyes wide. Olivia nodded, feeling strangely calm about this extraordinary possibility. "When I first looked into Lyra's eyes, I felt something I can't explain," she admitted. "She's lived for centuries ruling an advanced civilization, yet she's lonely, surrounded by those who revere her but never challenge her. Never see her. And you do?" Kate asked. "I try to." Olivia said, "I see someone brilliant and powerful and isolated, someone with the weight of an entire civilization on her shoulders, someone who needs an equal." Not a subject. A chime announced the arrival of their escort. The humans were led through crystal corridors that seemed more alive than ever before. The walls pulsed with subtle light responding to their passage. Sylvani, citizens stopped and stared as they passed, some bowing deeply, others watching with open curiosity. The council chamber was an imposing circular room with 13 crystal thrones arranged in a semicircle. The center throne, larger than the others, remained empty, awaiting the queen. The council members already seated were ancient Sylvani, their skin patterns showing the complex markings of extreme age. Their expressions ranged from open hostility to cautious interest. Elder Treese rose as the humans entered. "Captain Olivia Reeves," she announced formally, "you and your crew come before the High Council of the Sylvani at a time of great significance. The defeat of the Draxus fleet using your tactical suggestions has earned you the respect of our defense forces. The prophecy activation in our ancient systems cannot be ignored, yet there remain serious concerns about the path that appears to be unfolding." Before Olivia could respond, the massive doors opened again. Queen Lyra entered, with Vex at her side. The assembled Sylvani bowed deeply as she took her place on the center throne. The dragon curled protectively around the base of her seat, his scales shifting through royal blues and purples. "The council is now in session," the queen declared. Her voice carried perfectly throughout the chamber. Elder Triss remained standing. "My queen," she began, "we have studied the ancient prophecies extensively, the defense system's activation patterns, the celestial alignments, the unusual phenomena reported across our world, all confirm what many find difficult to accept. The one who stands unbowed before the throne has arrived." She gestured toward Olivia. But this was not what our ancestors anticipated. This human, this outsider is not of our kind. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Queen Lyra remained serene. Elder Varen spoke next. The defense systems show unprecedented activity. He reported dormant protocols have activated security measures we did not know existed, have engaged the ancient. Systems recognize the human. They respond to her presence, particularly when she is near you. My queen, and what does this tell us? Queen Lyra asked Elder. Marin, whose expertise was interspecies relations, answered carefully. The systems were designed to identify a suitable royal consort, one whose genetic compatibility with the royal bloodline would strengthen our connection to the defense network, one whose presence would bring necessary change to our civilization when it was required, and the systems have identified Captain Olivia Reeves, the Queen stated. Elder Triss stepped forward. But this is impossible, she protested, her voice rising with emotion. A human cannot fulfill this role. The genetic incompatibility alone would prevent continuation of the bloodline. The cultural differences are too vast, the implications for our social order, our traditions, our very identity. As Sylvanie Olivia listened to this debate with growing understanding, the Queen had explained aspects of the prophecy, but now the full significance became clear. The Sylvani believed she was destined to become the Queen's consort, to stand beside her not just as an ally, but as a partner in every sense. This was why the Council was so disturbed. This was why the ancient systems were activating. This was why Vex had accepted her touch queen. Lyra raised her hand, silencing the debate. I would hear from Captain Reeves, she said. All eyes turned to Olivia. She stepped forward, feeling the weight of history in this moment. Came to your world seeking knowledge and friendship. She began. I did not know of your prophecies, your ancient systems, or the significance of standing unbowed. I simply followed the principles my people value: honesty, direct communication, mutual respect. She paused, looking directly at the Queen. I have come to admire your civilization, its beauty, its accomplishments. I have come to respect your Queen, not for her title, but for her wisdom, her strength, her loneliness. Gasps echoed through the chamber at this last word. Loneliness was not something openly acknowledged in Sylvani culture, especially regarding their monarch. Your people have maintained stability and peace for millennia. Olivia continued. But at what cost? Your traditions, while beautiful, have become constraints. Your hierarchy, while orderly, prevents new voices, new ideas. Perhaps that is why your ancient systems recognize the need for change, not to destroy what you have built, but to help it grow in new directions. Vex rumbled, his approval. His scales shifted to brilliant golds and purples. The dragon's endorsement was unmistakable. Elder Triss shook her head. But the practical matters remain, she insisted. The continuation of the royal bloodline, the genetic connection to the defense systems. These are not mere traditions. They are necessities for our survival, Queen. Lyra spoke, then rising from her throne. The ancient systems were created by ancestors far wiser than we, she said. They understood that change would be necessary. They built mechanisms to ensure our civilization would not stagnate. They created the prophecy as a guide. When I connected with the defense systems on my ascension to the throne, I glimpsed their full design. The unbowed one was never meant to continue the bloodline through conventional means. The Queen descended the steps from her throne, approaching Olivia. Vex followed his massive form, moving with grace. The defense systems have activated a protocol so ancient it has been forgotten, she explained. It will allow a genetic merging, a sharing of essence that transcends physical reproduction. Olivia looked into the Queen's eyes, seeing the truth there. The process would bind them not just politically or emotionally, but at some fundamental level. Their separate identities would remain, but something new would emerge from their union. This is unprecedented, Elder Marin whispered, as it should be. Queen Lyra replied, the prophecy speaks of necessary change. The systems have identified this human, this woman who stood unbowed as the catalyst for that change. And if she refuses, Elder Triss asked, then the prophecy was misunderstood. The Queen said simply, I will not force any path. She turned to Olivia. The choice must be yours. Freely given. Olivia felt the weight of this moment. The implications were staggering. To bind herself to an alien queen. To become part of a civilization, not her own. To be the agent of change for an ancient people. Her crew watched silently, respecting that this decision was hers alone. Before she could speak, alarms sounded throughout the chamber. Elder Varen rushed to a control panel. The Draxus, he announced. They have returned with a larger fleet. They target our primary defense nodes. The chamber erupted in confusion. Queen Lyra moved swiftly to the strategic display. The Draxus had assembled an armada, unlike any seen before. Their target was clear: the ancient defense systems that protected the Sylvani homeworld. They must have detected the system's activation, Elder Varen said. They seek to strike before the prophecy can be fulfilled. The Queen's advisors argued for traditional responses. Activate the planetary shield, deploy the defense fleet, evacuate critical personnel. But Olivia saw immediately that these measures would fail. The Draxus had adapted, learning from their previous defeat. Their strategy targeted key vulnerabilities in the Sylvani defenses. Let me help, Olivia said, stepping forward to the fore. The challenge days passed as the human delegation remained in the Crystal Palace. Captain Olivia Reeves had expected resistance from the Sylvani elite. She was not disappointed. The Council of Elders regarded the humans with open suspicion. Court officials maintained rigid formality. Most Sylvani kept their distance, eyes downcast when they encountered the strange visitors. But Queen Lyra continued to seek Olivia's company. Each day she would summon the human captain for private conversations. Their discussions ranged across countless topics: Earth customs, Sylvani history, the nature of leadership, the challenges of exploration. With each meeting, the Queen's formal manner relaxed slightly. Her questions became more personal, more curious. Surprising to the court was Vex's behavior. The royal dragon, normally aggressive towards strangers, had developed an unusual interest in the human captain. He would greet Olivia with soft rumbles. His scales would shift to welcoming colors when she entered a room. On several occasions, courtiers witnessed the unthinkable, the human touching the Queen's dragon with casual familiarity. Elder Triss, the most senior member of the council, watched these developments with growing alarm. The ancient Sylvani female had served 3 monarchs in her long lifetime. She understood the significance of the dragon's behavior better than most. The implications disturbed her deeply. We must address this situation, Elder Triss announced during a private council meeting. The human delegation has remained too long. Their influence on the Queen is concerning. Their presence disrupts ancient protocols. Elder Marin, whose expertise was interspecies relations, spoke cautiously. The humans have shown no hostile intent. They seek only knowledge and cultural exchange. Perhaps we should consider their request for a formal diplomatic relationship. Elder Triss fixed her colleague with a stern gaze. Have you forgotten the prophecy? She asked. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The unbowed one brings change. The council chamber grew silent. The ancient prophecy was rarely discussed. It was considered too dangerous, too potentially disruptive to the careful order the Sylvani had maintained for millennia. Elder Varen, whose responsibility was the defense systems, finally spoke. The ancient systems are showing unusual activity. He admitted dormant sectors have begun to activate. Patterns are emerging that I cannot interpret. This is precisely my concern. Elder Triss said, these humans may trigger changes we cannot control. The Queen seems blind to the danger. She spends hours with the human captain. The dragon permits familiarity that should be reserved for the royal bloodline alone. What do you propose? Elder Marin asked. We must persuade the Queen to send them away, Elder Triss replied, for the safety of our civilization. Meanwhile, in the royal gardens, Olivia walked beside Queen Lyra. The 3 moons were visible in the daylight sky, creating subtle rainbows through the crystal towers. Vex followed a few paces behind his massive form, causing other Sylvani to detour widely. Giving the trio privacy. Your council doesn't approve of me, Olivia observed. The Queen smiled slightly. They fear change, she acknowledged. The Sylvani have maintained our traditions for countless generations. It provides stability, security. Olivia studied the exotic plants that seemed to respond to the Queen's presence, blooming as she passed. Sometimes stability becomes stagnation, she suggested gently. Queen Lyra stopped beside a fountain whose water flowed upward, defying gravity. Perhaps, she admitted, but our ways have preserved us through many challenges. The neighboring Draxus Empire has sought our destruction for millennia. Our traditions, our social order, our defense systems protect us. Olivia considered this. They protect you from outside threats, she agreed. But what about internal ones? What happens when a society stops growing, stops questioning? The Queen gave her a sharp look. What do you mean? Olivia gestured to the perfect garden, the flawless architecture, the precise movements of the court officials visible through crystal walls. Everything here is beautiful, ordered, controlled, she said. But control limits possibility. Your people bow so perfectly, they never look up to see the stars. Vex made a sound that might have been laughter. His scales rippled with colors Olivia had come to recognize as amusement. Queen Lyra looked startled, then thoughtful. Before she could respond, a royal messenger approached. Bowing deeply, "My queen," he said, "urgent news. The Draxus fleet has been detected at the edge of our territory. They have destroyed the monitoring station at the outer boundary, Queen." Lyra's expression hardened immediately. "Summon the council," she ordered. "Alert the defense command, we must prepare." The messenger bowed again and hurried away. "I should return to my crew," Olivia said, understanding the sensitivity of the situation. The Queen replied, surprising her. "You said humans have different perspectives. I would hear yours." Come. Queen Lyra led Olivia to the Defense Command Center deep within the palace. The large chamber was filled with Sylvani officers working at crystal control panels. Holographic displays showed the position of the approaching enemy fleet elder. Varen approached immediately, bowing to the Queen. "My queen," he said with clear disapproval. "The presence of an outsider in the command center is against all protocols." The Queen ignored his objection. "Display the enemy fleet positions," she ordered. The central hologram expanded, showing dozens of warships approaching Sylvani space. Their design was angular, aggressive, a stark contrast to the flowing lines of Sylvani vessels. "The Draxus have grown bold," Elder Varen explained. "They have developed new weapons technology. We detected unusual energy signatures before the monitoring station was destroyed." Queen Lyra studied the display. "The traditional response would be to activate the planetary shield and deploy our defensive fleet," she said. "But the Draxus would expect this strategy, Elder Varen. We will follow established doctrine." Elder Varen stated firmly, "The shield will protect the homeworld. Our fleet will maintain defensive positions. The enemy will exhaust themselves against our superior technology as they have in previous conflicts." Olivia studied the holographic display, noticing details the others seemed to overlook. "May I speak?" she asked. The Queen nodded, ignoring the shocked expressions of her advisors. "Your defensive strategy has worked in the past because the Draxus attacked directly," Olivia observed. "But look at their current formation." She pointed to the hologram. "They aren't positioning for a frontal assault. They're spreading out, surrounding your territory. These smaller vessels here and here," she indicated specific points. "They appear to be sensor jammers. Their placement suggests they're creating blind spots in your detection grid, Elder." Varen looked offended. "How could you possibly know Draxus technology?" he demanded. "You are a primitive species from an unknown world." Olivia remained calm. "I've studied warfare across many cultures," she explained. "The principles remain consistent regardless of technology. Create confusion, divide attention, strike where least expected." The Queen considered this. "What would you suggest?" she asked. Olivia moved closer to the hologram. "If I were commanding your forces, I would send small, fast ships to neutralize those jammers," she said. "Then I would create a false vulnerability, here drawing their main force into a concentrated area where your superior firepower would be most effective. The Sylvani officers exchanged glances. Some looked outraged at the human's presumption. Others seemed intrigued by the novel approach. This strategy violates centuries of doctrine. Elder Varen protested. The defense systems are programmed for established patterns. Deviation risks failure. Queen Lyra turned to Olivia. You said humans value adaptability. She noted, this would be an opportunity. To demonstrate it, I offer only a perspective, Olivia replied. The decision is yours. The Queen was silent for a long moment. Her eyes met Olivia's. Then she turned to the command staff. Prepare a squadron of our fastest ships, she ordered. Target the jamming. Vessels create a deliberate weakness in our perimeter defenses at these coordinates. She pointed to the location Olivia had suggested. Elder Varen stepped forward. My queen, I must formally object, he said. This unprecedented strategy based on an outsider's suggestion places our entire civilization at risk. The queen faced him directly. Our ancient strategies are known to the Draxus, she replied. They have studied us for millennia, just as we have studied them. Perhaps the time has come for something they cannot predict. Vex, who had remained silent until now, moved forward. His massive head level with the holographic display, his scales shifted to deep reds and golds. A battle color pattern. Olivia realized the dragon made a rumbling sound of approval. Elder, Varen bowed stiffly. As you command, my queen, he said. Though his disapproval remained evident as the defense forces mobilized, tension filled the command center. Olivia stood beside the queen, watching as the Sylvani ships moved into position. The tactics were being implemented with perfect precision. Queen Lyra spoke quietly to Olivia. This is the first time in my 300-year reign that I have deviated from established defense doctrine. The council will not be pleased. Olivia noted. The queen smiled slightly. They are displeased by your very existence, she said. Your refusal to bow, your direct speech, your questions that have no easy answers. She paused, watching the holographic battle unfold. No one has challenged me as you have. Not in centuries. The command center fell silent as the first engagements began. The small, fast Sylvani ship successfully neutralized the Draxus jamming vessels. As predicted, the main Draxus fleet moved to exploit the apparent weakness in the Sylvani defenses. Now, Queen Lyra commanded. The trap closed. The Draxus fleet found itself surrounded by Sylvani forces that had remained hidden. The audience silence filled the vast throne room. All eyes turned to Queen Lyra, waiting for her reaction to this unprecedented display. The Sylvani court had never witnessed such boldness. No visitor in living memory had dared to stand unbowed before their monarch. The queen studied the human female with open curiosity. This creature was smaller than the Sylvani, with rounded ears and skin that didn't shimmer. Yet she stood with unusual confidence. Her gaze was direct, challenging even the queen's. Dragon Vex shifted beside the throne, his scales rippling with colors rarely seen in the court. Greens and golds swirled across his massive body. Explain why I shouldn't have you executed for such insolence, Queen Lyra said. Her voice was soft, yet carried perfectly through the chamber captain. Olivia maintained her calm demeanor. Because you're curious, she replied simply. Your dragon knows it too. She gestured toward Vex, whose scales flashed brighter at being directly addressed. And because humans have something your people need, adaptability. We survived on a harsh world by learning to change, not by demanding others change for us. More gasps echoed through the court. The queen's advisors exchanged alarmed glances. No one spoke to the queen this way. The dragon raised his massive head, studying the human with unnerving intensity. For the first time in decades, Queen Lyra did something unexpected. She smiled. It was a small expression, gone almost instantly, but those closest to the throne saw it. The queen gestured, dismissing most of the court attendants. Leave us, she commanded. Only her most trusted advisors, the human delegation, and the royal guards remained. You speak boldly for someone in such a vulnerable position, the queen observed. Olivia nodded. Boldness and vulnerability often go together, she said. Where I come from, We believe honest words build stronger bonds than practiced formalities. The queen rose from her throne in one fluid motion. Her gown shimmered as she moved, catching light from the 3 moons visible through the crystal ceiling. She descended the steps that separated her from the visitors. The royal guards tensed their hands, moving to ceremonial weapons, but Vex made a rumbling sound that stopped them. The dragon followed the queen, his massive body moving with surprising grace. Queen Lyra circled the human delegation, studying them. "You claim to represent Earth," she said. "What authority do you have to speak for your world?" "I command the exploration vessel, Horizon," Olivia explained. "My mission is to seek out new civilizations and establish peaceful contact. I am authorized to represent Earth Alliance interests in first contact scenarios." "And what are these interests?" the queen asked. "Knowledge. Friendship, understanding," Olivia replied. "We seek to learn about the universe and the beings who inhabit it. We offer cultural exchange and mutual benefit." The queen stopped directly before Olivia, standing close enough that the human could see the subtle patterns in her luminescent skin. "And if we have nothing to learn from you," she challenged. "What then? Then we thank you for your time and continue our journey," Olivia said. "But I doubt that's the case. Your civilization is clearly advanced beyond our own in many areas. Yet I suspect there are things humans could show you. That is the beauty of diversity. Each species develops unique solutions to universal problems." One of the queen's advisors stepped forward, his face showing clear disapproval. "My queen," he said, "this human shows no proper respect. Their technology is primitive, their world unknown, their numbers few. What could they possibly offer? The mighty Sylvani Empire." Vex made a sound like distant thunder. His scales flashed with ripples of red. The advisor stepped back. Immediately, the queen seemed amused by her dragon's reaction. "Tell me, Captain Olivia," she said, "how would you address a leader on your world?" "We would shake hands." Olivia demonstrated the gesture with her science officer, Diane. "We would maintain eye contact, speak clearly and honestly. We might bow in some cultures, but never in submission. Always in mutual respect." "Fascinating," the queen murmured. "And your leaders? They tolerate such familiarity. Our leaders serve the people." Olivia explained. "They are chosen for their abilities, not their bloodlines. They hold power temporarily, not for life. They are accountable to those they govern." The court advisors looked scandalized by this description. One elder, whose elaborate robes marked her high status, stepped forward. "How can such a system possibly function?" she demanded. "Without proper hierarchy, without traditional authority, there would be chaos." Olivia smiled. "It isn't perfect," she admitted, "but it allows for adaptation for new ideas. When leaders must answer to their people, they must also listen to them." Queen Lyra seemed intrigued by this concept. She gestured toward a side chamber. "Come," she said to Olivia. "I would speak with you privately. The rest of your delegation will be shown to appropriate quarters and treated as honored guests." The royal chamberlain began to protest, but the queen silenced him with a glance. "My decision is made," she stated. "Vex will accompany us." Olivia turned to her crew. Diane Martinez looked concerned but nodded in acceptance. Captain Laura Green smiled encouragingly. Kate Bailey gave a thumbs-up gesture. The human delegation was led away by Sylvani attendants, leaving Olivia alone with the queen and her dragon. The side chamber was smaller, but no less magnificent. Its walls were lined with what appeared to be living crystal that pulsed with soft light. The furniture was elegantly curved, formed from materials Olivia couldn't identify. The view through the arched windows showed the crystal city stretching to the horizon. "Please," said the queen, indicated a chair that reshaped itself as Olivia approached, becoming more suitable for human proportions. "Thank you," Olivia said. Taking the offered seat, Queen Lyra settled across from her. Vex curled his massive body around the queen's chair, his head resting near her hand. She stroked his scales absently, a gesture that seemed natural and comforting. No outsider has ever spoken to me as you have, the Queen said, after a moment of silence. Most can't even look directly at me. They see only the crown, not the person wearing it. Olivia nodded, understanding. That must be lonely, she observed. The Queen looked startled by this insight. Yes, she admitted, it is. For 300 years I have ruled the Sylvani Queen. Lyra continued, I have guided our expansion through the Andromeda Arm. I have negotiated treaties with a dozen species. I have maintained peace and prosperity. Yet I am surrounded by those who bow and scrape and never speak. Truth. Your dragon seems honest, Olivia noted, looking at Vex, whose scales were now a deep purple with gold highlights. The Queen smiled, a genuine expression that transformed her face. Vex is unique, she agreed. He was engineered from ancient genetic material to bond with the royal bloodline he shares. My thoughts, my feelings, he cannot lie to me nor I to him. But he is not a person. Olivia finished for her. The Queen nodded. Her eyes held a sadness that seemed ancient. Tell me about Earth, Lyra requested. Her formal manner had softened slightly. Olivia described her homeworld, its diverse ecosystems, its varied cultures, its troubled history and hopeful present. She spoke of human resilience, of their curiosity and adaptability. She explained how Earth had overcome wars and environmental disasters to reach for the stars. And your family? The Queen asked. Olivia smiled. My parents were both explorers, she said. They charted new territories on Earth before we developed space travel. My mother mapped ocean trenches. My father studied remote mountain regions. They taught me to question, to seek, to find wonder in the unknown. And your mate? Olivia laughed softly. I have no mate, she said. My life has been devoted to exploration. There hasn't been time for permanent attachments. The Queen seemed surprised. Surely many have sought you as a partner. You are a leader among your people. Leadership attracts those who desire power, not necessarily those who desire you, Olivia replied. They see the uniform, not the person wearing it. She smiled at the Queen. Something you might understand. Queen Lyra leaned back, studying the human with new interest. You are perceptive. She acknowledged. Vex made a rumbling sound that might have been agreement. His scales shifted to a swirling pattern of purple and gold. The dragon stretched his neck, bringing his massive head closer to Olivia. He inhaled deeply, as if memorizing her scent. The Queen watched this behavior with surprise. Vex rarely showed interest in strangers. He was protective, even aggressive toward those who approached the throne. Yet he seemed curious about this human. May I? She asked, gesturing toward the dragon. The Queen nodded, curious to see what would happen. Olivia slowly raised her hand, palm out, toward Vex. The dragon studied it for a moment, then pressed his snout against her fingers. His scales were warm and smoother than they appeared. His eyes, which matched his scale color, swirled with gold and purple. Extraordinary, the Queen whispered. He has never allowed anyone but me to touch him. Olivia smiled, keeping her hand still as the dragon investigated her. Maybe he senses I mean no harm, she suggested. Or perhaps he senses something else, the Queen murmured. Her voice was so quiet, Olivia barely heard it. The moment was interrupted by a chime that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The Queen's expression changed, becoming formal again. The Council of Elders requests an emergency meeting, she explained. About me. Olivia guessed. The Queen nodded, rising gracefully from her seat. They are concerned by your presence, by my decision to speak with you privately. The Sylvani do not embrace change easily. Olivia stood as well. Understanding change can be frightening, she acknowledged. But sometimes necessary. Queen Lyra moved toward the door, but paused, looking back at the human. You will be escorted to guest quarters, she said. We will speak again. As Olivia was led through the crystal corridors by silent guards, she first contact Captain. Olivia Reeves stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Horizon. Her hands rested lightly on the control panel as she gazed at the magnificent planet growing larger in the view screen. She had led her small crew across vast distances, charting unknown regions of space. This mission was supposed to be routine exploration, but the energy readings from this world were unlike anything in Earth. Alliance records, the ship drifted through wisps of nebula clouds, revealing the breathtaking sight of a crystalline world. 3 moons orbited the planet, their surfaces reflecting light in patterns that seemed almost deliberate, as if they were beacons. Science Officer Diane Martinez worked at her station, her fingers moving rapidly over holographic displays. "The technology readings are off the charts," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "They must be at least 5 centuries ahead of our most advanced systems." Navigation Officer Kate Bailey adjusted their approach. "The gravitational fields here are complex," she reported, "but manageable communications." Officer Laura Green looked up from her console. "I can't detect any standard communication frequencies," she said. "These beings may communicate in ways we don't understand." Olivia considered their options. First contact protocols were clear. Approach with caution. Transmit peaceful intentions. Prepare for defensive maneuvers. But something about this world called to her. She trusted her instincts more than regulations. Her career had been built on making bold choices when others counseled. "Caution, take us in," Olivia ordered. "Direct approach." Kate looked up in surprise. "Captain, the protocols suggest maintaining distance until I know what the protocols suggest." Olivia interrupted with a small smile. "But sometimes you have to trust your gut. Those beings down there already know we're here, I can feel it." The crew exchanged glances. They had followed Olivia through dangerous situations before. Her intuition had saved them countless times. As the horizon moved closer to the planet, several sleek vessels emerged from its atmosphere. They were beautiful crafts that seemed to be made of the same crystalline material as the cities visible on the surface. They surrounded the human ship in a perfect formation. "They're scanning us," Diane reported. "No weapon systems activated yet." Laura worked at her station. "They sent some kind of signal." "Captain," she said, "not on any frequency we've encountered before." "On screen," Olivia ordered. The main view screen shifted, showing symbols flowing across it. The ship's computer attempted to translate, but the language was too alien. Olivia made a decision that would change the course of human and Sylvani history. "Open a channel," she commanded. "All frequencies. Use the universal greeting package but add a personal message." Laura looked uncertain but followed orders. "Channel open," she confirmed. Olivia stood tall facing the view screen. "I am Captain Olivia Reeves of the Earth Alliance exploration vessel, Horizon. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. I request an audience with your leader as equals." The crew held their breath, waiting. For several long moments there was no response. Then the symbols on the screen changed. "They're responding," Laura said, "but the translation matrix can't decipher it." Before Olivia could respond, the ship shuddered slightly. "We've been caught in some kind of tractor beam," Kate reported. "We're being guided toward the surface." Olivia nodded calmly. "Maintain passive systems," she ordered. "No defensive measures. Let them bring us in." The descent to the planet was smooth. The Horizon was guided to a massive landing platform beside a towering crystal palace. The structure caught the light of the 3 moons, making it sparkle. Like a massive jewel, Diane studied her readings. "The atmosphere is breathable." She reported gravity slightly lighter than Earth standard. "No detectable pathogens. Prepare for visitor protocol." Olivia instructed her crew. "We represent humanity. Make sure your universal translators are updated with all available linguistic data." The ship settled on the landing platform. Olivia moved to the airlock. She wore the formal blue uniform of the Earth Alliance, with her captain's insignia catching the light. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical style, and her weathered face showed confidence. Born from years of command, Laura approached her captain. "Perhaps we should wait for them to establish communication protocols first," she suggested. Olivia shook her head. "Sometimes you need to show initiative," she replied. She touched the control panel, opening the outer door of the airlock. The air that flowed in was sweet and clean, with hints of unfamiliar flowers. The gravity felt strange, making her movement slightly bouncy as she stepped onto the alien world. A delegation approached the ship. They were tall beings with slender bodies and graceful movements. Their skin had a subtle luminescence that shifted colors with the light. Their ears tapered to delicate points, and their eyes were large with pupils that changed shape as they focused. Their clothing appeared to be made of flowing material that moved like water. The universal translators in the humans' ears activated, attempting to decipher the language as one of the beings stepped forward. "Visitors, you have entered Sylvani space without permission," the translator rendered in a musical voice. "You will be escorted to the royal palace for assessment." Olivia noticed how the aliens seemed surprised by her direct gaze. They kept their eyes slightly averted from each other. She realized this must be part of their social hierarchy. "Thank you for the welcome," she replied. "We look forward to meeting your leaders." The escort surrounded the human crew. Their movements were precise and elegant. They carried no visible weapons, but Olivia sensed they were formidable warriors nonetheless. As they walked toward the palace, Olivia took in everything. The pathways were made of the same crystalline material as the buildings. The plants were unlike any on Earth, with colors that shifted like the skin of the Sylvani. The air seemed to carry music, though no instruments were visible. The palace grew more impressive as they approached. Towers spiraled upward, seemingly defying gravity. The main entrance was flanked by statues of creatures that resembled dragons, their forms captured in crystal so realistic they seemed about to move. Inside the palace, the humans were led through corridors where the walls themselves seemed alive with light. The ceiling soared hundreds of feet above them. Sylvani moved throughout the palace, all of them tall and graceful, all of them keeping their eyes downcast when they passed. Certain others, Olivia realized, she was seeing a rigid social structure in action. The Sylvani society was clearly based on strict hierarchy, with elaborate rules of deference. They were brought to an antechamber, where a being dressed in more elaborate clothing approached. "I am the royal chamberlain," the translator rendered. "The queen has expressed interest in meeting the visitors personally. This is highly unusual. You must be instructed in proper protocol." The chamberlain explained the complex ritual required when meeting the Sylvani queen. The humans were to keep their eyes lowered at all times. They were to approach to a specific distance, then bow in a particular fashion. They were to speak only when directly addressed, and never to contradict. Olivia listened politely, but her mind was made up. Where she came from, leaders earned respect through actions, not elaborate rituals. Earth had long ago abandoned such formalities, finding them counterproductive to genuine communication. When the chamberlain finished his explanation, he looked at Olivia expectantly. "Thank you for the information," she said diplomatically. "We appreciate learning about your customs. However, humans greet each other as equals. We show respect through honesty and direct communication, not through ritualized submission." The chamberlain appeared shocked. "Your species' customs are irrelevant here," he stated. "You are in the court of Queen Lyra, ruler of the Sylvani and protector of the Andromeda arm. You will follow our protocols, or you will not be granted." Audience. Olivia stood her ground, her expression calm but determined. "In that case, please inform your queen that we respect her sovereignty, but cannot violate our own principles. Perhaps another form of greeting can be arranged." The chamberlain seemed at a loss. His skin color shifted to a pale blue. His large eyes blinked rapidly. "This is unprecedented," he finally said. "I must consult with the Council of Elders as—" The chamberlain hurried away. Diane moved closer to Olivia. "Captain, are you sure this is wise?" she whispered. "We've studied hundreds of first contact scenarios. Sometimes adapting to local customs is the prudent approach." Olivia shook her head slightly. "We're not here to conquer or colonize," she replied quietly. "We're here to establish relationships. If that relationship begins with us pretending to be something we're not, it will never be genuine." Before Diane could respond, the chamberlain returned. His color had shifted to a deeper blue. "The Queen has made an unprecedented decision," he announced, his voice betraying his astonishment. "You will be admitted to the throne room without performing the traditional obeisances. However, you must maintain a respectful distance from the royal person." Olivia nodded. "That is acceptable," she said. The massive doors to the throne room opened, revealing a space so vast it seemed impossible. The ceiling was transparent, showing the 3 moons and stars beyond. Crystal columns supported arches that curved gracefully overhead. The floor was polished to mirror, brightness reflecting everything above. And there, on a raised platform, sat the most beautiful being Olivia had ever seen. Queen Lyra of the Silvani wore a gown that seemed made of liquid starlight. Her silver hair flowed past her shoulders. Her face was perfectly proportioned with high cheekbones and full lips. Her eyes were the color of the deepest parts of Earth oceans. She sat unnaturally still, as if she were the solitary throne queen. Lyra of the Silvani people sat alone in her massive crystal throne room. The light from 3 moons filtered through the transparent ceiling, making her silver hair glow. She had ruled the vast starscape of the Andromeda, arm for 300 cycles. Her reign was marked by peace and prosperity, yet something was missing. The queen stroked the scales of her companion. Vex, a bioengineered dragon, whose body was currently a deep blue, matching her mood. No other being in the known galaxy had such a creature. They were bonded at a genetic level, allowing the dragon to sense her every emotion and thought. Some said the queen loved her dragon more than any person in her kingdom. Vex raised his massive head, sensing her melancholy. His scales rippled, changing from blue to a soft purple. Lyra smiled at the display. She alone understood what each color meant. This was his way of offering comfort. Palace workers moved quietly around the edges of the throne room. They knew better than to disturb their queen when she was communing with her dragon. The entire palace operated like this, in hushed reverence. Everyone walked on careful feet, afraid to upset the delicate balance of royal favor. Today was Suitor Day. The thought made Lyra sigh heavily. Vex growled low in his throat. Sensing her annoyance, a tall, elf-like man with the traditional pointed ears and glowing skin of the Silvani approached the throne. He stopped at the proper distance and lowered himself, in a perfect ceremonial bow. His movements were practiced and elegant. His clothes were made of the finest materials in the galaxy. "This is the 17th suitor." This cycle, Lyra thought to Vex through their mental link. The dragon huffed, sending a small puff of harmless smoke into the air. The man rose but kept his eyes respectfully lowered. "Ambassador Kren from the honored house of Milthor requests permission to speak," he announced in a musical voice. Lyra waved her hand, granting permission, though her face remained impassive. She had seen hundreds of these performances over the centuries. They all blurred together in her memory. Ambassador Kren spoke of alliances and advantages of joining their houses. He recited poetry in the ancient language. His credentials were impeccable, his manners perfect, his appearance flawless, yet Lyra felt nothing. Not a single spark of interest. Vex shifted his weight. The massive dragon curled his tail protectively around the base of the throne. His scales were now showing flecks of red irritation. The queen raised her hand, stopping the ambassador's speech mid-sentence. "I thank you for your offer, Ambassador Kren," she said. Her voice was cool and measured. "The House of Milthor brings honor to our people. However, I must decline." The ambassador bowed again, though this time his movements were stiff with disappointment. He backed away, following protocol to the letter, even in rejection. When he was gone, Lyra sank deeper into her throne. The Council of Elders would be displeased. Yet another refusal. They had been pressuring her for decades to choose a mate, to produce an heir. Her bloodline was special, connected to the defense systems of their homeworld. Without an heir, the future of their people was uncertain. Elder Triss entered after the ambassador had gone. Her ancient face was creased with concern. "My queen," she began. "We must discuss this situation. The council grows restless." Lyra straightened her posture. I am aware of the Council's concerns, she replied, Elder. Triss stepped closer than protocol allowed, showing her frustration. It has been 300 years. You have rejected every suitable match from 100 worlds. The defense systems require your bloodline. You know this. Vex scales flashed bright red. He raised his head higher, a subtle warning to the Elder, who stepped back immediately. Lyra placed a calming hand on her dragon's neck. The ancient systems will continue to function. She assured the Elder. I am in no danger of dying. Soon our people are safe. But for how long? Elder Triss pressed. The laws are clear. An heir must be produced. The ancient contract with the defense systems must be honored. I am aware of the laws. Lyra said, her voice taking on an edge that made the Elder bow her head. But I will not bind myself to someone simply to satisfy tradition. The one who shares my throne must bring more than practiced bows and memorized compliments. Elder Triss looked as though she wished to say more, but thought better of it. She bowed and retreated from the throne room. When she was alone again, save for Vex, Lyra rose from her throne. The dragon followed as she walked to her private observatory at the highest point in the palace. Here the view of the stars was unobstructed. The 3 moons of their homeworld hung like jewels against the black. They bow too easily, she told Vex as she gazed at the stars. They offer nothing but empty words and rehearsed gestures. None of them see me. They see only the crown. Vex made a rumbling sound in his chest. His scales shifted to deep purple, a color he showed only when they were alone. It meant understanding empathy. Lyra stroked the sensitive spot between his horns. The mighty dragon leaned into her touch like an oversized pet, though. He was far more intelligent than any animal. His eyes, which changed color with his scales, were currently the deep purple of his body. They watched her with ancient wisdom. There is no one in all the galaxies who would challenge me, she said quietly. No one who sees past the title. No one who would dare to stand as an equal. Vex tilted his head, suddenly alert. His scales shifted to amber. His attention turned toward the large window. What is it? Lyra asked, following his gaze. Far beyond the 3 moons, a small light moved against the backdrop of stars. It was too controlled to be a meteor, too small to be a trading vessel. The Queen touched a hidden panel on the wall. A holographic display appeared, showing the unknown object. It was approaching Silvani. Space at a steady pace. The ship's design is unfamiliar, Lyra noted, studying the readouts. Not one of the known species in our database. Vex made a curious sound. His scales rippled with flecks of gold. Interest. Perhaps we should greet our visitors, Lyra said with the first genuine smile in weeks. Something about the approaching ship called to her. It was small, unimposing, yet it moved with purpose. The way its captain navigated the complex gravitation fields of the nebula border showed skill and confidence. She touched another panel, summoning her advisor. The small ship will be intercepted and escorted to the main landing bay. She instructed. I will meet these visitors myself. Her advisor looked shocked. My queen, that is highly irregular protocol. Dictates that unknown species must be processed through diplomatic channels. Before Lyra cut him off with a gesture, I have made my decision, she said simply as her advisor hurried to make arrangements. Lyra turned back to the window. Vex stood beside. Her scales now a swirling mix of amber and gold. Something tells me these visitors will be different, she whispered to her dragon. Something tells me everything is about to change, deep in the ancient defense systems that surrounded the planet. A dormant protocol activated, responding to the Queen's interest. The system had been waiting centuries for this moment. A long-forgotten prophecy stored in its memory. Banks began to glow on its displays. The Queen will know her mate when one comes, who stands before the throne unbowed. On board the small human exploration vessel, Horizon Captain Olivia Reeves studied the readouts of the magnificent planet they were approaching, a world of crystal cities and technology beyond human understanding. Ready for first contact, she asked her small crew, unaware that her arrival had been anticipated for 300 years, by systems older than human civilization itself.